I played 300 days of Stardew Valley Expanded. If you haven't seen the previous 200 days, check those videos out first so you can get up to speed. This mod just continues to amaze me every single day, there's just so much to explore. This time I had 4 main goals, which mostly suggested in the comments of the last video, so you know what to do. Number 1, get full friendship with everyone. I'm gonna need this for recipes. Number 2, get the Master Angler achievement. I really don't like fishing, so you get to see me suffer. Number 3, buy the Return Sceptre. At 2 million gold, I'm gonna have to figure out how to make a load of money. And number 4, get the Infinity Blade, cause that is a cool weapon. Before we go on with the video, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. These videos take an absolute age to put together, so any support would mean the world to me. And with that, on with the video. When I loaded up on day 201, I got a cutscene with Victor asking me to come watch him work at the bridge. I recapped my journal, which was a bit chaotic, and then reorganised some of my messy chests in my inventory. After refilling my kegs with coffee, I went to give the wizard an iridium bar that he requested, taking some more with me to Clint's to upgrade my watering can, but he wasn't there. That afternoon, I went to meet Victor by the quarry bridge where I was shown this cutscene which hurt my heart. Once I pulled myself together again, I took the boat to Ginger Island to check on my tarot and unlock the mailbox, as well as the farm obelisk. On day 202, I hunted for the mummified frog, not realising that I'd already donated it. Turns out I mistook it for the bat. I checked my progress on the perfection tracker, mainly being interested in the number of walnuts, but also to show how much more work we still need to do. I then went home to check on my animals because I hadn't seen them in a while, and set up some blueberry wine. On day 203, I made more mayo and cheese machines which I set up in my second shed. Clint was now around so I could finally upgrade my watering can before heading to Willie's to buy some trout soup. I went on a bit of a gifting spree, starting with Caroline for her birthday, then up to Robin's arm with some goat's cheese, with the others getting the leftovers. Looking at my fishing progress, we had a long way to go to a master angler, so it was time to get started. But then I suddenly remembered that we needed to start talking to apples. What a cutie. Anyway, back to fishing. My goal here was to try and get the glacier fish today, but it was far too difficult and I suck. So after a few attempts, I gave up for the night, with a plan to return with some dishes of the sea and cork bubbers to make the fishing bar bigger. On day 204, I went to give Victor a rabbit's foot and instead was given a star drop, so that was pretty cool. I just installed the to-do list mod, which is a lifesaver, so I put myself together a list of things that I wanted to get done, then it was off to the ice festival. After talking to all the villagers, I took my place for the fishing contest, which I won. I went to bed victorious. On day 205, I wanted to give apples a gift, so I had to take the long old walk over to the Aurora Vineyard. I was thinking to myself, why can't I have a walk point for this? But when I got there, I got this cutscene where apples helped me to make one. It's like the game read my mind or something. I needed a new special request, so I picked up the one for Sophia's fairy garden. And here are all the items that we're going to need. I thought it was just going to be flowers, but then there's fairy stones and fairy dust too? I grabbed the seeds from Pierre's so I could grow the flowers for the fairy dust, and headed to Ginger Island to plant them on some random pre-hoed spots. My tarot was also ready, so I harvested that towards the island ingredients quest. On day 206, I accepted the Skull Cavern's invasion quest before collecting my watering can from Clint's, and got him to open some frozen geodes looking for fairy stones. I only got 3. From there, I went to the mines to smack some dust sprites, but forgot I had the harder mines on, so I decided to make the most of it by hunting for some radioactive ore, but that was literally the only node I ended up finding all day. The bright side was that these mushroom things still counted as dust sprites, so I managed to complete the Monster Slayer goal. On day 207, I opened 69 Omni Geodes, looking for some more fairy stone, donating some of the new stuff I got for 2 new rewards, a crystallarium and a magic rock candy. But from all those geodes I only found 2 fairy stone, so I still needed 5 more. When I got home, I cut some hay because I was almost out, and then set up an area for a tree tapper farm. On day 208 I wanted to make some seafoam pudding, which means I'll need midnight carp. I took some wine to Gunther for his birthday and then chopped loads of wood for the rest of the day, and it was time to catch that fish. I ended up passing out with 2 of them. On day 209, Willie asked me for a lingcod. Luckily, we caught some last night. After making my seafoam pudding, I refilled the kegs and then trekked up to Robin's to ask for a fish pond. As I still needed more fairy stones, I went back up to Clint's to even more Omni Geodes, but received exactly 0. I decided now was the time to catch the glacier fish, so I chumped my seafoam pudding, and after a few tries, we actually got it! Oh my god, I can't believe I just got that. And then I ended my day by giving Willie his lingcod. Day 210 was the last day for Mr. Key's Skull Caverns quest, so I headed to the desert to get it done. I had 80 staircases and my magic rock candy with me, so this shouldn't be too bad. Other than the freebie ladders, I mostly bombed my way down, finding a fair amount of treasure floors. I made it to floor 100 just before 5 PM, so I carried on down looking for more treasure floors and even got my first auto-petter. I ended the day by passing out on floor 156 with all these goodies. The next day, I put my auto-petter in the barn and dropped a midnight carp in the pond before requesting Robin to build me a stable. I wanted to pick up another key quest but was disappointed to find the exact same two as last week, so I left. On day 212, I harvested some pineapple as well as the remaining taro for the Island Ingredients quest, then finally collected my burglar ring. It was a night market day, so I bought the painting on display, then spent the rest of the night fishing in the sewers. On day 213, my stable was finished, so I went to greet my first ever horse, which I named Bullseye. This was a really exciting moment for me because I've literally never had one in Stardew before. It was the wizard's birthday, so I trotted over to his tower with a gift, then visited Apples with a gift, which he pretty much just gave straight back to me. Okay. I returned to the wizards for my horse and got this adorable cutscene, then spent the afternoon in the mines hunting ghosts for ectoplasm, which I handed to the wizard for 2.5 grand. On day 214, I got the recipe for the mini obelisk, which I immediately forgot about, and found out my secret friend this year was Demetrius. I suddenly realised Sophia asked for fairy rose seeds and not the flowers, so I dropped into PS to buy another 50. I planned to spend the rest of the day in the mines gathering frozen geodes, but I realised I could just put the fairy stones in crystallariums for the quest, so I tended to that instead. On day 215, I made a bunch of triple shot espressos so that I could have a speed horse, which I rode up to Marlon with a birthday gift. Then it was back in the mines on the hunt for iron. On day 216, I got Victor to max hearts. I went to Ginger Island to harvest my fairy rose, then bought myself a horse flute from Mr. Key. I needed more key gems, so I accepted the 4 precious stones quest again. Then went home to collect some things because I wanted to upgrade my sword at the volcano and complete that key quest. But when I got back to Ginger Island, I realised I forgot to bring my watering can and the prismatic shards. Home we go again, you dingus, we'll take care of that tomorrow. Day 217 was back at Ginger Island to hand in that key quest, which meant I could buy the final galaxy soul needed to upgrade my sword, so it was off to the volcano for the day. Instead of going straight for the forge, I did have to fight my way through because I had no cinder shards with me. I got to the forge by 10 PM, excited to see that it was only 20 cinder shards that I needed. I had just enough, but when I did the upgrade, I suddenly realised that it was 3 separate attempts. Disappointment. I went home for some supplies, then my fairy stones were ready, which meant I now had everything I needed for Sophia's garden, so I rode over to her house on day 218 to hand everything in for 35,000 gold. After that, it was back to Ginger Island again to work towards that infinity blade when I found over 150 cinder shards just chilling in a chest, so I went straight to the forge to get my new weapon. Oh, and I combined the burglar ring with an iridium band too. On day 219, I got my first banana, so I took it to the shrine in the jungle in exchange for some golden walnuts. I wanted to try get the mummified bat, so I was in the volcano yet again, and I was also looking for some dragon's teeth towards the island obelisk. I started day 220 by shipping all of the cooked dishes in my chest as I had accepted the key quest to ship 100k's worth. These were nowhere near enough, so I headed to PS to pick up some more ingredients when I got this cutscene with Abigail and Caroline. With that out of the way, I bought some flour and sugar, and galloped back home to cook all the food that we could, working towards the cook all dishes achievement at the same time. I fished for the rest of the day, and when I went to sleep, I was disappointed to find out that we only made 25k from all of that cooking. Yikes. Day 221 was the Feast of the Winter Star. I gave my sturgeons a nautilus shell, then I fished in the tiny pond until it was festival time. Whilst I was doing my rounds, Victor said he had a gift for me when we got home, so I had that to look forward to, then went over to Demetrius to give him his gift, which was also a nautilus shell. Kent was my gift giver, and he gave me 10 deluxe speed grow. Thanks, Kent. I then wanted to head home to find out about this gift from Victor, but when I walked in the door, he was already asleep. Time for bed, I guess. On day 222, I finished planting my greenhouse, and made some more coffee before going to visit Apples with some starfruit. When I left, I sensed a new pathway had opened up, so I went to check it out. There was this beautiful spring called Sprite Spring where I was introduced to Klaus and Angelica, although you don't actually get to see them. I was immediately allowed to summon a warp here. Look at all the stuff we can forage! And when you swim in the water, which restores energy, you also get a different buff each day. This mod is full of surprises. On day 223, I fished at Shearwater Bridge and hit level 10 fishing on my way to explore Grampleton Fields a bit more, noticing this mysterious tower. I noticed there was also a warp point, so I tested it out to find it land you at the Wizards. I couldn't find anything else to do here, so I left. To carry on working on Master Angler, I went fishing in the mines for the lava eel, but I kept just getting trash. I suddenly remembered I'd accepted Linus's community cleanup earlier in the week, so I decided to stay and make the most of it. After a couple of hours, I collected enough trash to complete the quest one day before it expired. When I went to turn in for the night, someone was at my door. It was Camilla, here to kidnap me. She took me to a new location, the Crimson Badlands. Looks scary. I created a warp point here so I can come back and explore. Overnight, I picked the angler profession, and on the morning of day 224, I was straight back to the Crimson Badlands for an adventure. It started with this cutscene, warning me that I should be prepared, but we all know I was going to wing it. Isaac showed me a map that he said I'd only get to see once, and we all know what my memory is like, so I did panic a little. As soon as I got in, there were so many enemies. I was pretty much surrounded the entire time. I found the castle gate, which isn't functional yet, and this area with loads of swords on the floor, which, of course, I had to pick some of them up. Shortly after, I found the big corrupted serpent, which I attempted to fight, but as soon as it touched me, I died. Luckily, Camilla came to the rescue. She didn't take any of my gold, but I did lose my farm totems. I let myself recover for the day, go into the Adventurers Guild to retrieve my farm totems, and selling all those spare weapons we found. When I got home, I found this strange capsule on my farm, so I moved it indoors and went to bed for the last time of the year. Now it was time for Grandpa's assessment, and I'm gonna be honest, it was my first time ever getting this far in a save file. He said some really nice things, so I was feeling good about it. And when I stepped outside on day 225, the shrine was lit with all 4 candles. I was so proud of myself, and it meant I could collect the Statue of Perfection. The first of spring is always a busy one, so I cleared up the land, got rid of those old sprinklers, and replaced them with iridium ones. When I popped back in the house, I got a cutscene with Victor letting me know that Shearwater Bridge will be closed for refurbishment for a few weeks. Then, it was time to ride into town to buy my seeds. This year, I ended up going with 400 cauliflower seeds, which I planted with some basic fertilizer, but it took me so long to prep everything that I didn't have time to get everything in the ground. So I went to carry on day 226 to find that I had to redo some of it. Got there eventually though, but I did have to go back to Pierre's to get enough seeds to fill the rest of the field. I checked the special request board to see Pam was asking for the strong stuff again, so I accepted it. We weren't going to fail this time. I went home to craft a couple of solar panels and planted Pam's potatoes, when I realised that this mini shipping bin is in the dumbest place. Why have I just put it next to the bigger one? I moved it next to the barn to make it easier to sell the truffles, and ended the day by finally setting up my crafting bench. On day 227, the wizard was at my door, letting me know of the arrival of little Morgan. Ugh, not another NPC to make friends with. I forgot about that for now, and headed to Ginger Island to fish, getting absolutely mocked by this bubble spot which disappeared as soon as I arrived. So I left to try get more walnuts using my slingshot, but I failed at that too. I'd decided I want to use Ginger Island for starfruit, both for wine and for gifts for Apple, so I cleared up the land in preparation before spending the evening catching a couple of new fish. The following day, I went to give apples to starfruit, and in return, I got a rock. Thanks, I guess. I was almost out of starfruit, so I went to visit Sandy to buy some more seeds, along with some deluxe speed grow to go with them. I popped by the wizards to give him a gift too, when I met little Morgan for the first time, and had another cutscene with the wizard where I found out that Angelica is actually the crop fairy. It's so cool that they gave her a story. I tried to leave the tower and got yet another cutscene. I love that this mod adds to the wizard story, and I think this one's for if you wanted to date the wizard, but I'm already married, so we went with the other option. Now that those were done, I went to Sprite Spring to see what I can pick up this season, and there was an ancient fruit. And, because of the botanist profession, I picked it up as iridium quality. Oh my god. Then, it was back to Ginger Island to plant my speedy starfruit. On day 229, I found another walnut, along with my first ostrich egg. I went back through my journal scraps to try and figure out what walnuts I was missing, but I couldn't find anything helpful, so I took the boat back home and got this cutscene with Linus, which I skipped. Now that we're in spring, it's time to catch the legend. Except I found out it had to be raining, so we're not doing that today, and instead, I made some more kegs and preserves jars. On day 230, I renovated my house, and bought more rabbits from Marnie. Here are their randomly generated names. I spent some time in my greenhouse making more ancient fruit seeds for a second set of crops, and then chopped wood for the rest of the day, which I used on day 231 to start an organised storage room because my chests were getting full. It was Lewis's birthday, so I gave him a spicy eel before I could forget, then caught Victor on his way to work, confused by the cones that he placed there himself. The remainder of the day was spent going in and out of the house getting the new storage room organised, so things were starting to have a proper place. On day 232, the potatoes were ready, so I plopped them straight into the kegs, with the rest of them getting filled with more wine. Then, the afternoon was once again spent chopping more wood. We can't seem to get enough. Oh, and I took a quick break to check Sprite Springs and there were sweet gemberries? But those don't come out as iridium quality. Well, back to woodcutting. But hang on a minute, where does this go? Looks like I've got my own personal spring, with more forage and mahogany trees. How has this taken me till year 3 to find this? No! On day 233, I placed a dresser that I don't remember buying so that my chest could be free of hats and rings. Then I went to check the Adventurers Guild for my Monster Slayer goals. Looks like I've only got the mummies and the pepperwrecks to go. Then, the afternoon was filled by continuing my quest to deforest the entire map, and came home with just over a stack of wood. On day 234, I harvested some truffles and rearranged the outside area before going on a little gifting spree to work on friendship. I also planted some rhubarb. On day 235, I fished for some fish as there was an overpopulation problem, then made a bunch more casks for the restored shed because we needed a lot more money for the Return Sceptre. The next day, I chopped wood again for the morning. My potato juice was ready, so I collected it and rode my horse straight over to Pam's to drop it off. We actually managed to do it this time. The rest of this day was, you guessed it, chopping more wood. I'm really getting sick of this.
You're not really fine.
On day 237, my cauliflower was ready. I wanted to leave it for the chance of a large one, but then I realised it was egg hunt day and I had nowhere to plant my strawberries. Better get to work then. First thing I did when I got to the festival was buy my strawberries, but I had to guess how many because I forgot to check how many sprinklers I had free. This year, I was feeling pretty confident about that egg hunt. I got my best ever score of 9 eggs, and I finally won! Yes! Finally! I went home victorious to plant my strawberries. On day 238, my first aged wine was ready, but when I went to ship it, I realised that all that waiting really wasn't worth it for blueberry wine. Live and learn. I upgraded my second barn before heading to Ginger Island to harvest my starfruit and move my solar panels to a sunnier place. Then replanted my starfruit. As it was a Sunday, I traded my janes for staircases, then proceeded to deforest the desert. On day 239, I got my first ever giant crop. What a moment. But instead of keeping it around, I decided to harvest it because we needed the money. Having learnt from the other day, I started some starfruit wine, and grabbed one of my gold quality blueberry wines for Olivia's birthday. When I left, I got a cutscene with her, asking if I'll turn my farm into a vineyard like Sophia. I told her, I'm not quite at a large scale production yet. Then, it was on to Apple's house to deposit all of my gold quality starfruit in a chest so that I always had gifts at the ready. Being the 15th of spring, it is now salmonberry season, so I ate some pancakes so that when I harvest the bushes I get 4 berries instead of 3. Except I literally only harvested this one bush because I realised it was Monday, so there were new key quests. And I made the mistake of picking the keys crop quest, not knowing what I was getting myself into. On day 240, I harvested some salmonberries, then had trouble adding the barn upgrade to the to-do list due to the animation cancelling script. We'll just roll with it. Whilst out looking for berries, I met the trash bear for the first time, who was asking for a herring, and also dropped off a load of eggs at the saloon as Gus wanted to make another omelette. I stopped in to see Apples, who gave me an ancient seed. I had to double take because I couldn't believe it. The morning of day 241, I opened a bunch of geodes and bought a load of bombs from the dwarves so I could hop in the mines for iron. I quickly got bored of that, so I asked Robin to upgrade my second barn again. On day 242, I picked up the group of cheap aged wine, but didn't refill the casks yet because I wanted to refill the entire basement at once. Since I didn't seem to have one back home, I fished at the beach for a herring, which I wanted to give straight to the trash bear, but got distracted by this cutscene, which was the result of Sophia's fairy garden. That reminded me that she sold sprinklers, so I bought all of her iridium ones. Okay, back to the trash bear. After the herring, the next thing he asked for was a sardine. Luckily, I just fished one of those up too. The third thing he asked for, I couldn't figure out. I knew it was a cooked dish, but I'd never seen it before. A long time after recording this, I've now come to learn that it's mango sticky rice, but I didn't know that at the time. Back at the farm, I set up my second area for ancient fruit in Grandpa's old shed. It's looking like I'm gonna need a lot more ancient seeds. The next morning, Sophia was at my door thanking me for a fairy garden, which meant I now unlocked new things to buy from her. Turns out it was iridium sprinklers and pressure nozzles, but we already knew about those from yesterday. Out of nowhere, I remembered the Junimo woods existed, and I hadn't looked at it properly yet. I didn't realise till this moment that these were all actually shops, and look at what they sell. There were artifacts, the legendary fish, we've got some gems, some seeds, some decorative pieces which I'll definitely have to come back for one day, and lastly some of the deluxe stuff and magic bait. That afternoon, I wanted to have another stab at the Crimson Badlands because there were fish there I needed, but before I went in, I thought I'd try Sprite Springs to see if I'd get a useful buff. I got farming. Rubbish. When I got there, Isaac was outside selling some things, some powerful weapons, and a recipe for an attack potion, but I ended up just buying the pre-made ones instead for now. It took me a while, but I managed to get a peaceful window to catch the undead fish. Then, I wanted to try and find the cave, but was completely unprepared for the sheer amount of mummies here. It was overwhelming, but I got through to find this treasure room with a chest that had a prismatic shard-shaped keyhole. Unfortunately, I got surrounded on my way out and died. This time, losing my infinity blade. You lost 3 items. No! But I can just get that back from Marlon. When I woke up on day 244, my key fruit was ready. I was disappointed to find out you really do only get 1 per plant, so I gave up on that quest. After giving Shane a hot pepper for his birthday, I was back at the Crimson Badlands, armed with a prismatic shard for the treasure chest. But I died again. And again. Time to take a break from that, maybe. Just kidding, I went to the saloon to buy salads as a better healing food, and jumped right back in. Except this time, I accidentally used a farm totem. No, oh. 4th time's a charm, maybe? We finally made it. I put that prismatic shard in the keyhole and got a galaxy slingshot in return. Oh! This one increases the damage of iridium ore. On day 245, I had some strawberries to harvest, and bought 5 new pigs for the newly upgraded barn. I harvested my ancient fruit to turn into more seeds for the shed garden, made another 50 casks, and started a new batch of starfruit wine. When I went to turn in for the night, I got a cutscene with Victor. Turns out the bridge refurbishment was now complete, and he wanted me to come for an unveiling tomorrow night. So on day 246, I mined for iron all day, till it was time for the date. Just kidding, I got bored of that and went to Ginger Island to accept the legendary fish quest. So that's what I did for the rest of the day. I didn't catch anything good though. I suddenly realised I needed to get to the bridge, but I got there 10 minutes too late, so there was no cutscene. I was so upset. The bridge was looking great though. On day 247, I picked all of my rhubarbs as well as all of my starfruit. I gave Gus eggs for yet another omelette, got a cutscene with Hayley, which I skipped, then tried going to Shearwater Bridge a little earlier than 10, and hey, we made it! You're right, Victor. What is a bridge renovation without a good plate of spaghetti? On day 248, some of my trees had grown, so I placed some tappers. It was the flower dance today, but first I paid a visit to Apples, who I also happened to find outside the flower dance. I bought the tub of flowers recipe, and one of these rare crows, and whilst talking to all the villagers, I became popular. Now that's something I never thought I'd say. Then, it was time for my second year of awkward dancing. Squat! 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 Day 249 was my second and final strawberry harvest of the year. Then it was off to the mines for coal and iron until the Adventurers Guild opened so I could collect my arcane hat from Gil. Now, I only had to kill 23 pepper eggs to become a monster slayer hero. I wanted to go to the desert to do this right away, but Pam wasn't there. She must be too hungover today. I didn't want to rely on her anymore, so I went to the wizards to see what I'll need for the desert obelisk. And out of everything, I think I only needed the money, so that was going to be my next priority. On day 250, Sandy was asking for a diamond. Luckily, I was planning to go to the desert today, so I could take care of that pretty easily. The day was spent in Skull Caverns with the sole purpose of killing them dinos, but I only found 3 because there were no prehistoric floors. So after giving Emily a birthday gift on day 251, I headed back to Skull Caverns to continue. I still didn't find many dinos, but I did come back with 6 prismatic shards the next day. It was the last day of spring, and it was raining, so this was my last chance to catch the legend. I was determined. I was going to do this today. It did reinforce my distaste for fishing, but at long last, I did it! And whilst I was in a winning mood with fishing, I went and caught the mutant carp as well. and then celebrated by giving apples some starfruit. I started day 253 like we start any other season, by prepping the fields and going into town to buy seeds. But when I walked into Pierre's, I got the cutscene about his secret stash. Don't worry, Pierre, your secret's safe with me. Anyway, I bought some blueberry seeds and some melon seeds, and for some reason, 1 hot pepper seed. Time to get to wet planting, which took me pretty much all day by the time I added the fertilizer too. On day 254, all of my casks were free again, so I refilled them with starfruit wine, and any that were left over I added blueberry wine to. I also collected my first ever aged cheese, and whatever blueberry wine we had left over we just sold because it was not worth saving. I chopped wood again, before finally bringing that largemouth bass to Jodie's. Who knows how long she's been waiting for me for dinner, and why do we just put it on the floor? I got a cutscene with Shane which I skipped because I've had my dose of cutscenes today, and chopped more wood on my way to bed. On day 255, I asked Robin to upgrade my keg shed. I wanted to enchant my fishing rod, so I spent the rest of this day grinding for cinder shards, and by the end of the day I had enough to do it, but I was looking for the master enchant which increases your fishing level by 1, and this wasn't it. On day 256 my starfruit was ready, and I finished filling my second ancient fruit area. I finally had enough money to buy the desert obelisk, and used the painful method to move my skull caverns chest over next to it. On day 257 I modded my horse to a cuter one. Look at it! I made use of my new obelisk to pop to the desert to buy more starfruit seeds, because it dawned on me that I forgot to replant them yesterday, so we took care of that real quick. After finding my cinder shards at home again, I came back to the volcano to enchant my fishing rod again, and this time we got what we needed. But I still spent the evening in the volcanoes anyway because we still needed that mummified bat. We didn't get it yet though. On day 258, I gathered fibre from the mines whilst doing the cave patrol quest, where I had to slay 50 grubs, finishing it just before 10 PM. On day 259, I was in lumberjack mode, and on day 260, I mined in the volcano looking for the mummified bat. Still no success. On day 261, I panned by the dig site all day, looking for a fossilised tail, and the lucky ring, both of which I got. I celebrated in the volcano for the evening, finally getting that mummified bat. But what am I doing here? I threw away the tail. Why? Oh my god. And when I went in to hand the bat, I realised my mistake, so I passed out at the dig site trying to find it again. It's okay though, because I got it back first thing on day 262, handing it in right away. Now that I had completed all the fossils, I learnt the recipe for the Ostrich Incubator, so of course I went home to craft one and popped that egg right in. That evening, Apples invited me to a party, so I went over right away, but nothing really happened, so I went home. Day 263 was the luau, so I walked up to the pot and dropped in a pineapple which made for an excellent soup. Success! On day 264, I placed some more kegs before getting this cutscene with Sophia, where I decided to cheer her up by going to pet Dusty together. I foraged at the beach where the sea was this really weird green colour whilst on my way to Ginger Island to drop off more prismatic shards for Mr. Key. And then I combined my lucky ring with an iridium band. On day 265 I got a large melon, then headed to Clint's to open geodes because my midnight carp were asking for a mudstone. On my way home, I got this weird cutscene with Emily, which was made weirder because I tend to play with the music off. Oh, that's right, I actually stopped here to see what clothing an opal would make, and got this pretty shirt which I changed into immediately. Then, I took Shane to the hospital, which made me forget what I was doing, so I went to the beach and found Hayley's bracelet, then went on to catch the crimson fish. Bit of a fighter this one. The last thing I did this day was rush to plant some more starfruit seeds because all this distraction today made me forget to refill this field. But hey, we made a decent amount of gold today. Day 266 was a blueberry harvest. This is honestly one of the most satisfying crops to pick. Look at them all. I wanted to make some more preserve shards, but then ended up accidentally making 23 casks. Oops. I guess I still needed them anyway. From there, I popped to Ginger Island to harvest and replant my starfruit, adding any remaining seeds to my home farm. On day 267, I got a scam phone call, which was weird, so I ignored it and went to see Apples getting this cutscene, which was really sad. I told Apples they made more plant friends, and those aren't a mistake. The bear even came by and brought maple syrup to the party. This just got so adorable. Then it was back to chopping more damn wood, but I also got this cutscene where I got the chance to ask Linus to live on the farm with me. But I know he likes his way of life out here, so I didn't do that. Bless him. With all that wood, I asked Robin to upgrade my other shed, and then got round to giving Gus his lobster. On day 268, I worked on my friendship with Shane, which meant I got this lovely cutscene of him giving a gift to little Jazz. And then I continued chopping wood for Robin's resource rush, and just because I needed an absolute butt ton of the stuff. I used some of it to make more preserves jars, and yeah, not casks this time. Day 269 was a good luck day, so it was a good day to descend the Skull Caverns, coming out with a few rain totems, 5 prismatic shards, a couple of hats, and 149 iridium ore. A decent day overall. Overnight, Victor asked if we should have another baby. I said, nah, I'm good. And day 270 was another good luck day, so it was back to Skull Caverns again, where I managed to complete my final Monster Slayer goal. I didn't come out with quite as much stuff, but I did find this cool cowboy hat. During the night, Sherty gave birth to a baby pig, which the game named Prillers. The next morning, I harvested my blueberries before setting up a chest for that key quest, where you have to give 100 items of each colour. I wanted to have it ready for whenever it might pop up so I could just grab it and go. And then I rode into Cindersap Forest to harvest a load of hay because the farm was running out. On my way into town, I made Clint finally ask Emily out, then made my way up to Demetrius to give him a birthday gift. Speaking of gifts, I also went to give Apples a starfruit, and then they said, "Apple's excited! Apple's found starfruit! Share with Apple Friend!" And like, huh? You found it? I just gave it to you! Anyway, time to go home and harvest my ancient fruit. On day 272, I just finished recording the City Witch and forgot to remove my camera from the screen, so this is going to be here for a little bit. My bad. Oh, I know. That's better. Now that my shed upgrade was done, I went to rearrange it. And my ostrich hatched today, so we went with the name Patsa. Look at it! I'm so happy! Then, I took a quick trip to Ginger Island to harvest pineapples for another round of island ingredients, before returning to the Adventurers Guild to pick up my last Monster Slayer reward. Doesn't that look stupid? On day 273, I collected my reward for the Island Ingredients quest, and tried to give my horse a hat, but on this modded horse they looked super awkward, so I got rid. I managed to get some more coal, so I placed some more preserves jars, and on day 274 I decided to go fishing because I needed the octopus. And honestly, this thing cost me my sanity. It took me 3 full minutes to be able to reel it up, but we got there. I never want to do this again. I even ended up shipping it because I didn't want to catch another one solely for that purpose, and then spent the rest of the day in the harder mountain mines because I accepted that quest from Mr. Key again. From there was like a month break from recording because we went on our wedding and honeymoon trip, which, if you haven't seen the vlog already, you should totally go check it out because it's in a very similar style to these videos. That meant, when I woke up on day 275, I couldn't remember what I was doing. I went outside to harvest my blueberries and also refilled my kegs before sailing over to Ginger Island to deal with my starfruit, making sure to share some with Apples of course. And when I went to leave the vineyard, I got a cutscene introducing us to Peaches. Aren't they adorable together? On day 276, I hit up the casino to play some games of Calico Jack, and replanted my starfruit because I kinda forgot yesterday. Let's blame the jet lag. On day 277, I remembered about the Mr. Key Mines quest, so I went and worked on that. And after a quick starfruit harvest, this continued into day 278, and day 279, finally getting it finished on day 280. This meant I got to wrap up the summer by going to the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies. And now into fall, the final stretch. After prepping the land on day 281, I got a cutscene at Shearwater Bridge. Camilla came to say hi and added more fish to the water here. I also got this cutscene with Evelyn, talking about some memories with my grandpa. Then it was time to get my seeds. This year, I bought 288 pumpkins and 400 cranberries, except it was meant to be 384, so I gave some back. Back on the farm, I planted all of my cranberries, but the wheat still wasn't ready, so the pumpkins will have to wait. Luckily, it had grown the next day, so I could plant my pumpkins on day 282. Now that I was building up a stock of wine, I decided to go and count how many casks I had, because that meant any excess wine could be sold. In total, I've got 266 casks, so I left a reminder for myself before going foraging in the desert for some reason. I can't quite remember why. On day 283, I checked in on my bat cave and succeeded at catching the anglerfish. And on day 284, I went and bought a magic rock candy as well as a load of deluxe speed grow which I slapped on the cranberries. For the evening, I fished in the sewers for the radioactive bass, managing to catch a good few of them. After picking all of my ancient fruit on day 285, I went fishing at Shearwater Bridge, catching the butterfish. I was also looking for the puppy and kitty fish, but those end at 2 PM, so I left it for the day. Instead, I headed to the mutant bug lair, scoring my first slime jack, and also a difficult void eel. Gross. On day 286, I was back at Shearwater Bridge to catch the kitty fish and the puppy fish. So freaking cute! Look at them! I decided to check in with my fish catching progress, and look how few we have left now. After consulting the wiki, I realised that there were some fish I needed to catch in new areas that I had not even visited yet, and these required friendship with Lance and Marlon, so there was no way I was going to do this in time. So that goal has to go out of the window. I still wanted to get as close as I could though, so I continued into the mines to catch the lava eel, which appeared after a stupid amount of trash. And on my way home, I bumped into Martin, who I don't think I've seen in over a year. On day 287, I went and sorted out my starfruit farm, which I really should have done yesterday, and then took out my frustration for my mistake on the local trees. That night, I fished near the Pirate's Cove, looking for the elusive shiny Lunaloo. I still didn't catch it. On day 288, I used some of my key gems to buy some recipes, before heading home to harvest my first cranberries of the year. I wanted more ostriches, so I incubated another egg, and then cleared out the auto grabber in the coop because I hadn't touched it in a while. On this day, I'd finally stocked up enough wine for the next round of aging, so I could now start to sell some and made a decent amount of money from that today. On day 289, I opened up some artifact troves, getting the rusty cog I needed, and I scored this treasure chest. After donating that rusty cog, all I needed was the yellow strange doll to complete the museum. The rest of this day was spent harvesting blackberries. On day 290, I went to visit Apples and hit all 10 hearts, so I went outside to trigger this cutscene. Little Apple shared some starfruit with us, and said that the others at the Junimo village said that they should make new friends, so they grew all these starfruit plants. We played together for a while, but I got caught by Andy, which was kind of embarrassing. I thought maybe Apples would restore the vineyard, but nope. Day 291 was a good luck day, so I trumped that magic rock candy and went into Skull Caverns for the day, which meant I woke up on day 292 with a bunch of fun things. 7 prismatic shards and 378 iridium ore. Bloody brilliant. It was Ancient Fruit Friday, so I did the rounds before checking for anything new at the vineyard. There wasn't, so I left. Day 293, another cranberry harvest, but also it was Abigail's birthday, so I went and gave her an amethyst. Another full friendship complete. At this point, I remembered a secret note that I'd not taken care of yet, so it was off to the desert to get that last strange doll. And of course, I went into the library. No, that's Clint's. Let's try that again. I went to the library right away to donate it, and nothing happened? We didn't dwell on it for now though, because something was going on in the Junimo woods. There was some sort of Junimo party? Apples was there. I don't know, all they were saying was meep. But then they all headed towards Aurora Vineyard. Could this be it? Are we going to be able to use this now? They took me to the mother starfruit tree, and after sharing their special knowledge, starfruit now sell for a higher price? Oh my god, I was not expecting that. On day 294, I checked my collections for the museum to see that all the pieces were filled. I didn't know this at the time, but it turns out that this shows what you've collected and not what you've donated. So it's going to take some time to work out what we were missing. When I went back to my house, a Junimo said that there was a new item for sale. So after finishing adding kegs to my shed, oh my god, that's so unsatisfying that there's only one left. I went to go check it out. There was this cutscene with Abigail, but I skipped it. I needed to know what was in that shop. It was a super starfruit. Does that mean I can ask Apples to come live with me? Of course I bought it and took it straight to Apples, but they just looked puzzled. Turns out that this was because I'm already married, so it's a bit like having Krobus as a roommate. The rest of the day was for basic farm chores and giving gifts. And overnight, we made loads of money. You know what that means. Oh wait, Apples is at the door. Now I finally had the decision to refurbish the vineyard, or have Apples live there. And of course, I asked to refurbish. Apples has friends at the Junimo village now after all, and they do seem happy about it. We'll go have a look at it later, but first, we ran to the sewers to visit Krobus, because it was time to buy my Return Sceptre on day 295, 5 days before the end. I did buy a Void Egg to give to Krobus too. A good day so far. After pushing Emily out of the way to give Sandy a birthday gift, we went to see the vineyard get refurbished. Look at Andy just creeping in the corner. I wonder what he sees. Looks like he didn't know the old owners though. And here is our third house. Looking forward to filling this out in the next 100 days. But for now, we chop wood. On day 296, I left my pumpkins alone again because I wanted a big one. It was the day of the fair, so I set up my display in an attempt to destroy Pierre. And I absolutely did, with a score of 112. I bought myself the Rarecrow, then quickly popped over to Sandy's to buy starfruit seeds. On day 297, some items were placed in Lost and Found, which made me realise I forgot to clear out my Grange display. I still had no big pumpkin, so Bullseye took me into town to retrieve my items. When I got to Lewis's, I got that fashion show cutscene, so I skipped it, because I really wanted my prismatic shard and puppyfish back. From there, I headed to Ginger Island because the fair yesterday meant I couldn't harvest my starfruit on the day it was ready. On day 298, my pumpkins finally merged and I had a few giant crops, which I was super excited about. This meant I could harvest the rest of my pumpkins, and also had to pick my cranberries today too. It was now too late to replant pumpkins, so I ended up buying a load of beets because these only take 6 days, and I couldn't put down any speed grow due to the fertilizer that was already there. I then decided for whatever reason that the way I wanted to earn everyone's love was through spaghetti. Sounds legit? On day 299, I picked up some soggy forgotten truffles, while going on a spaghetti gifting spree. Oh, Leo doesn't like spaghetti. Right. The rest of this day was spent chopping wood for more kegs and casks. On day 300, I went to check on my ostrich egg, but my barn was full, so I moved one of my pigs to the other barn so that the ostrich could hatch, with the name ending up as Bortley. Being the final day, I wanted to decorate it a bit, so I added some paths where I hadn't really finished them and just had a little bit of a tidy up. I sorted my to-do list for the next time I play, so I don't start off being completely clueless, and then went to sleep for the last time, making 27,000 gold. So, how do we do? I feel like we made a decent amount of gold this year, so much so that we were able to buy our Return Sceptre, and we did of course get our Infinity Blade. For the shipping tab, we've only really got a few items left, although I haven't got a clue what any of these last ones are yet. And here's our fishing progress. It's incomplete, so of course we've failed our Master Angler goal, but that's because we got to go to brand new areas we've not seen before. We've officially collected all the museum things, but we'll figure out next time what's not been donated yet. I cooked quite a few more dishes this time, and we only have a few achievements left. There was also only one more journal scrap to find. As for our friendships, I feel like we made a good amount of progress, but in all honesty, there's just so many people and they keep introducing us to new ones. It's so hard to keep track of, but yeah, that's another fail. Which means we got 2 out of our 4 goals. Not amazing, but hey, I never claimed to be good at the game. Right? Right? Please do let me know what you think I should aim for in the 400 days video. Yes, there's gonna be a 400 days video, but as we always say, these take an absolute age to put together, so it'll be a little while. In the meantime, please do like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much to my channel members, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!